Okay, hey, hi, hello, divas. Okay, so this is just going to be a quick little intro because today we're actually doing something a little bit different. I'm going to have this whole entire episode just be the I Want to Know Diva portion with the guest because I ended up chatting with this guest for a lot longer than I normally would for these portions, but we just had so much fun chatting and we have been, friends on Threads for a little bit. So I ultimately ended up deciding that I wanted to keep the full interview for this week's. So there's not going to be any of the little personal you and me sections this time, but don't worry, we'll be back with that next week. But I did want to go ahead and say that just, because it's funsies, by the time this actually comes out, I'm recording this at 3:30 in the morning on Friday, the 10th, May 10th. And tomorrow, when this comes out, Saturday, May 11th, that's my 29th birthday. So that's kind of fun that it's lined up to where an episode comes out on my birthday. So, yay, happy birthday to me, I suppose. Wee. In that being said, I did want to take this time too to go ahead and plug. Should you decide you want to support my silly little show, you can at buymeacoffee.com/ENODiva. That's buymeacoffee.com/YKNOWDIVA, just like the name of the show. No pressure, no obligation. Just if you're having fun and you decide you want to support me a little bit, little birthday celebration, what have you, that's there. Just wanted to go ahead and let you know about that. But with that, let's just go ahead and get into it, divas, and I'll see you next week. Thank you. We're going. Okay. Oh my God. Hey, hi, hello, divas. Welcome to another segment of I Want to Know Diva, where I have one of my favorite people from the Threads Voids, one of my original OG mutuals, and in fact, we're like username twins. It's the not your average yogi. It's me. It's Janet. It's Janet from Threads. Oh my God. Hi, Janet.
Hi, I love that intro. That was
Ah!
the best intro I've ever gotten in my whole life.
Oh, stop.
No, really, I love
It just came to me just now.
it.
But oh my
I
goodness,
love
I
it.
am so excited that you are here
Me
and
too.
excited to chat with you today and hang out. I mean, I've been wanting to just press record, like, and I'm being in the yoga class earlier today, and like the way we were chatting, I'm like, this is all gold. Like, we're just like, I want it all, but so I'm just like, I'm glad that we're finally in the setting and the little red
Well,
light is on. But
yeah,
how
me
are you?
too. I'm good. Fun fact, I've had my own podcast since like 2020, but I actually have never been a guest on someone else's. So this is my first time being a
Ah,
guest on someone else's, and I am so
yay!
pumped. I'm so
That
pumped.
just made me even more excited. Oh my God,
hmm
yay! Well, I'm honored
hmm
to have
So it's
you.
very special
Well,
moment here.
this is, I'm thrilled. This is my first time ever trying a little podcast. And I mean, I don't know when this is actually going to hit, but I got to get
Hopefully
that
soon,
hopefully soon. We're getting there.
because
But
I'm so curious. I'm trying not to ask like who the other guests are, because I really want it to be a surprise.
oh,
So I'll
the
try like
nuggets are
not
out
to
there.
stalk and like see who they are.
Yeah.
But
The
like people
nuggets are
need to
kind of
add
out
you
there, but
fast.
I
Yeah,
know,
they
I
need to
know.
add
We're
you
getting
fast
there.
so I can see, so I can listen and
Yeah,
read
so
it.
I'm excited because this is actually like I'm excited to like because you're going to be episode 4, so which is fabulous because like if it all lines up, I was wanting to get 4 episodes done before the 10K milestone happens before launch so that I can just queue them all up and schedule them and let them go for a month while I work on the next batch, just to kind of keep the vibes how I want the vibes. And I feel like I can do that by staying ahead of things, you know?
Yeah, you're so smart. I love the way your brain works. I'm like,
Oh,
yes, I
thank
love
you.
that energy. So
I
smart.
gotta put my degree to work a little bit. But oh my goodness, the reason why we're even here, well, I mean, besides just me wanting to chat with you more face to face, but we're here to talk about what? I'll let you tell them. What passion of yours are we chatting about today?
So basically, we are here to talk about yin yoga,
Yes, of course.
which I feel like, I talk about it kind of frequently on my page. not too frequently, but enough to where people are like, okay, something's going on with her in yoga, and maybe I don't know what it is, but it's something yoga related. And yeah, I just, recently I've really noticed that because I'm trying to get people to come to classes more,
Mhm.
I'm getting a lot of questions of like, what is yin yoga? Or I get the exact opposite, and people are like, oh my God, I love yin. I didn't know you teach yin. But there's not really like an in the middle.
Huh.
Like, you either know it or you don't. Like, there is no, like, you either know it and love it and have done it, or you just don't know anything about
I
it.
was in the don't
So
know anything about it camp for sure.
yeah, yeah. And I thought that was so interesting and so cool because, like, out of all the yoga branches, I feel like that's the one that everyone should be doing. Like, every
Really?
day should be doing it, even if it's just for 10 minutes, like one pose that you do for the rest of your life and you hold it for 10 minutes. Like, everyone should be doing it. So it blows my mind sometimes that, like, this is not all over the place everywhere. Like, everybody knows about it,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um,
And
so
I mean,
yeah.
hearing you say that, and I'm like, I'm so happy that I have had the opportunity to take your donation based yin yoga like classes a couple of times before we had this chat, just because, like, I mean, I know a little bit of, I'm not going it completely blind, but like, it does completely, I could see how, like, I should probably be trying to do it more often every day, because it's from my experience, like my very basic level experience with you with it, it's a pretty gentle yoga. I mean, I'm not like, I mean, today we did a little bit more of some other stuff too that was like a little bit more intense, but it feels more gentle and more even, I guess, user or beginner friendly rather. Is that about right?
Yeah. No, I would definitely agree with you. It's definitely more accessible to everyone. And I would say because it's not so fast paced. So in like a traditional American yoga class, you're probably taking a vinyasa class, which is what they call a flow.
Hmm.
And you're moving pretty fast. You're one breath, one movement is what they like to say. One breath, one movement. So you're breathing in and moving, breathing out and moving. Like, breathing in and out with one movement, and then breathing in and out and going into a totally different pose. So there's
Okay.
like a lot going on. Um, and, some people really need that. They, like, for me on my own time, if I'm trying to get back into shape, you will definitely find me at a flow class. Like, you want to get in shape, go to a flow class. But you can also get in shape doing yin, which is kind of crazy
Huh.
because you're not
Really?
really moving that much. But you are because you're strength building.
Areas are
So,
engaged. You're not necessarily doing
mhm,
like crazy movements,
mhm,
but
mhm.
engaging areas.
And you're also, because you're kind of tapping into that mental aspect of it and that emotional aspect of it, you can also get into shape because you're dealing with the emotional, mental stuff that might be preventing you from wanting to get up and move your body. So instead of
Hmm.
like kind of putting a band-aid on stuff, you're just diving right in. Like, you're like, I know I've got some issues here that I need to work on. This is what I think they are. I'm just going to dive right in and just deal with it.
Yeah.
And so yin can be like really intense for a lot of people. And, like, as you try different elements, you'll see that, because as you move through, like right now we're doing a certain style, like a certain element. I'll talk more about that so people know what
Yeah.
I'm talking about. But
Yes.
like, as you do the different elements, you'll notice that some of them you're really digging and you're like, oh, this is so fun, this is so easy, I feel so refreshed, I feel so great. And others, you'll be doing them and you'll be like, oh no, oh no, this is uncomfortable. I feel really tense in my legs. Like,
Get
my
me out
legs
of
are
here.
shaking. I feel like I'm gonna fall over. Like, this is really way too much. Like, help me. And that's when you'll see, like, oh, okay. So maybe I should be doing that class more. Like, I have a yoga, one of the teachers who trained me who says, like, the pose that you like the least is the one you should be doing the most.
Damn.
Yeah. And it's
I
like,
mean, I,
oh, okay.
lovely. Fine.
But it's
Sure.
true. Like, if you
I
think
mean,
about like your life in general, like the stuff
doing
that
something
we
like
tend to
uncomfortable is,
avoid.
yeah, is not comfy, but it's
Mm-hmm.
necessary
Mm-hmm.
for
And like
sure.
the stuff that's the most uncomfortable, the stuff that we're like, oh, I don't want to do that today. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Like the stuff we procrastinate on is usually the stuff that's like the most important. Like you procrastinate on that. We're not in college anymore, but you procrastinate on that essay till the last minute, and that essay is going to decide if you get an A in that class or not, like if you
Y-
pass or not. So
Yeah, yeah. Been
it can get
there with,
intense.
some work things. My job is deadline based, so like every now and again, procrastination hits. But
Oh,
I get you. But I do I like that how it's not just a physical thing, like there's that mental component to it also, because I will say that whenever I was going into that first one, I didn't realize that that was going to be like a part of it. I was like, I went to your first class and I was like, this is just going to be like the yoga class I used to take at the gym years ago, like just one of those like more like, I don't know, one for exercise. I don't even know
mm-hmm.
how I'm supposed to say it, just a not like, I wasn't expecting that that side of it. And then especially with these last couple, which were the wood element we've been working on, right? I know we're about to talk more.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you get all into that, but like I just noticed that how you were saying how there could be like, if you're feeling something angry, like feelings angry later on, like, or anything like that, or you feel yourself getting irritable or something, like I was noticing that like after the fact, and I was like, ah, that makes like, at least it gives me something to kind of point towards.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's pretty cool.
It's one of those things where it's all the little stuff. Like it's all the little things. You're doing little tiny movements, little tiny changes, little tiny adjustments. And then because you're paying attention to these little tiny things, you take that with you into the real world and you're like, "Oh,
Hmm.
okay. This is making sense now." Like, and I think like the hardest part about being a human, and especially a modern day human, is that we've gotten really programmed and really used to putting ourselves last
Yeah.
and being really like desensitized to what our body's telling us, what our brain is telling us, what our feelings are telling us. Like all these things, your body, your brain, your feelings, they're there for a reason. Like they're giving us these cues for a reason. Like if your stomach hurts, it hurts for a reason.
Absolutely.
So like we've been kind of programmed to ignore those feelings, ignore those cues from our body. And when we do that, we start to disconnect from ourselves. And the further we get away from ourselves, the harder it is to keep moving forward. The harder it is to kind of pinpoint what is going on with me? Why am I feeling this way? What is happening? The easier it is, and you see this all the time, for people to like blame others
Yeah.
because they're not connected to themselves and they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
They don't even realize
They don't
it.
know what they're
And
missing. Really. It's really
no,
one of
no.
those.
Yeah. And like there have been times like after I did my yoga teacher training and I got in the best shape of my life and everything was so great and I saw this thing, there was still like an inherent sadness going on inside that I was kind of just like putting a band-aid on. And it wasn't until I just had this major trauma happen in my life and I just couldn't hide those feelings that I was stuffing down anymore. And it all came out. And it
Just
came out in a loud and intense way. And, I thought I was invincible. I was like,
yeah.
oh, well, you've done the yoga teacher training. You've paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in therapy and teacher trainings and yoga workshops
You've
and,
done all the
you
things,
know,
like
yeah, doing all the things, eating
all the boxes
healthy.
checked. Like,
And so I thought, okay, I'm immune. Like something bad happens to me, something rocks my world, like I'll just get right back up and I'll be fine. I'll bounce
who
back.
cares? Yeah.
Not the case.
Mm,
Not the
yeah.
case. And after like 6 months of blaming everyone else, I knew it was happening. I was so aware. I was like, you might start blaming other people right now because you are not okay. And then I
Yeah.
did. And then I continued to spiral out. I continued to spiral out. And I knew what was happening and I knew how to stop it. And I just didn't. And it got to the point where I had to realize, like, you need to rest. That's
It's
what it is.
your body's
Like,
telling you.
you just need to isolate, go internal, and deal. Feel these feelings, feel that anger, feel that grief, that hurt that's bubbling up inside of you, feel that inherent sadness that you've carried with you for so long. Deal with all of those traumas because this one big trauma brought that all up. And the older you get, the more you realize that life doesn't just like stop.
Right.
Like bad things are going to happen.
That's the
Like, and
world.
it's
That's life.
scary. Yeah. Yeah. And like, and you don't know how you're going to handle it. You really don't. And you don't know, you know, how it's going to play out for you. And if you have this, like, if you have tools in your toolbox that can help you, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
And if you can kind of take a step back and look at yourself and be like, where do I need help here? How can I help myself here? It's a lot easier. And then
Yeah.
you're not, doing what I did and being angry for 6 months straight and being like, no,
Uh,
this should not have happened to me. I'm a yoga teacher. I know how to
like,
deal with this.
uh, but I mean, what a humbling thing
Yeah,
to
yeah.
experience. And thank you for sharing that with me right now and just with everybody, like with the
Yeah,
world.
of
Like that's
course.
like taking your experience and then helping other people with it. Like to helping other people not have that same not so great experience that you had.
That fall from the top, basically. And like
Like,
it happens. It happens. Like we forget sometimes that we're all human.
yeah.
Like shit happens. We go through depressive phases. We are in a bad mood. Like we lash out on somebody on social media that maybe we shouldn't have. Like but like we have to learn to forgive ourselves and we have to learn to like forgive other people.
Yeah.
And
I love that like for the self-forgiveness thing is something that it's a daily like working on for me because like to like and dealing with like I just self-grace particularly with my body, which
mhm,
I like. This ties in with like the using of the yoga, but like I've done this whole like weight loss dirty thing. I've done this twice, and I feel like as we've been talking about this, I never thought about it that way, but like the fall from the top type of feeling, I feel like I had that a similar thing to that, but with a not like maybe not with the trauma triggering it or
it
associated
is
with
a
it,
trauma. It is a
but
trauma.
oh, and it's I guess in itself maybe
Yeah.
yeah. So, but like I had got my life. I was severely like or very much overweight. It was affecting my health. I lost a bunch of weight that one time, and then I was feeling great. And that's when I started drag too. Like I was doing my full-time job, doing drag 5 nights a week professionally. Like I was going to the gym 3 times on top of that. All of this, and then of course, well, I mean, as I'm going through the story, then the pandemic hit. That collective trauma that we all dealt with,
Mhm.
and then that fall from there, and never really went back to drag after that. Which I mean, that's I've come to my terms with that, and it's not I've moved on from that. But uh, gaining all of the weight that I had lost, and then even more. So I was even in a worse spot than I was before. Um, and then only just in the last couple of years, like kind of gathering myself and kind of like being like why obviously like, like dealing with the trauma of the pandemic, and then like simultaneously with the wow, I'm not really the same person that I was then.
Yeah.
Like that I liked the me I was then, but like I also love like the me I am now, but that's not we're not quite the same. And that
Yeah.
was I don't know where I'm going with this, but that's just
No,
kind of
I
where
love it. I love it because I just got chills when you said all that because that that's literally exactly what I'm going through as well. Like that that I loved who I was. I loved my life. I loved the way I looked. I loved the careers that I had. I was doing yoga full time. I just loved everything. My hair looked good. I looked good. Like,
You were
you
it.
look good, you feel good. Like I was like the queen. I'd walk into the bar and everybody would be like, Janet, like put my drink
Yes.
down. I'd be like, yes. Which
Yes.
is funny because I don't even drink now. I mean, I do a little bit, here and there, but I mean, then I was just like partying a
Yeah.
lot. But the biggest thing that I had to let go was you will never be that version of you again.
And
And
that's
that
okay.
was the part, yeah, that was the part that was really like messing me up because I was like,
Yes.
but I don't like who I am right now. So I want to be that person again. Like how do I get back to that person? And then
Yeah,
that's when I kind of had
that
to,
feeling is so oh,
it's
I'm sorry, continue. I did not
hard.
mean to. It like
No,
that, but
no,
that
no.
feeling is so like because even like, being in that I'm putting myself back in my head in that headspace of like when I was like at back at my even my new heaviest or whatever back like at when like the all the throes of all of course I'm sure there was depressiveness in there too, but all of that and having that exact thought being like oh I had it like I was there
Yeah, I
and
had
now
made it.
like oh and then just the grieving of like damn like how could I have let this happen and especially because I remember when I was on top I was like I'm never letting myself like I'm not gonna let myself go like I'm not like I've
Yep.
got a grip on it I've got this
Mm-hmm.
of course looking back I mean I had an eating disorder at that time it was not great like and I didn't realize that then but
Mm-hmm.
like I realize that now, and, like, even
Yeah.
looking back. So I guess like that's kind of it's a weird bittersweet because it's like I was loving it while I was there, but now I'm like, hmm, maybe it wasn't so great.
Maybe it
Which is
wasn't
also a new
perfect.
like yeah.
No, I
But
feel
wow.
you. I feel you because I definitely, and grieving is the exact word for it because you're grieving your old self and you're coming
Mhm.
into your new self. And when people talk about manifestation and things like that, like a big part of that is letting go of your past. If you don't let go of everything, basically, when you throw that manifestation into the universe, it's going to be really intense when the universe starts pulling the things out of your life that don't align with that manifestation. And you're going to feel really
Mm,
like, whoa. And if you don't work with that energy, you put that out in the world, the universe is going to clear the path for you, but you got to work with that energy. If you're not working with it, it's never going to manifest. It's never going to come true. And I
there's
think
yeah,
that's where
you
people get like a little lost with manifestation because they're like, well, I said I
like you got to
wanted
do the work.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
like I
you have
mean
to be
it's not
ready
just a
to let
wish.
go. Yeah, yeah. And I
Mm,
think too, like the fun part about this experience that we've both like gone through in different ways is that um, you know, we're gonna we're letting go of an old life and we're starting a new one. And that's
mhm.
exciting because
Yes.
we might be in like a transitional period right now where we're like, oh, I don't really feel like I'm there yet. But when we do get there, whatever there is, the feeling is going to be so good. And we'll look back on this time and we'll be like, oh, I get why I had to go through that. I get why that had to happen. I get why this had to happen. And like, when you think of time as like a made up construct, it's a lot
Mhm.
easier to not think of things as like wasted time. So you're a lot easier on yourself because you're like, I didn't waste any
Huh.
time. I was just evolving. I was just transitioning. I was just growing like into a
I
new
love that.
life. Yeah, and it's like sometimes I like forget sometimes when you're like really upset or really depressed or really angry, you'll like forget these things and like I just always try to remind myself of this when I'm at my darkest, lowest moments. I'm like, okay, but like this is just a part of growth. Like, this just means
Yeah.
that your manifestations are happening. Like, this person wouldn't have remove themselves from your life if it wasn't supposed to be that way. Like maybe they can't meet me where I am on my journey. Maybe they're not coming with me. Maybe they're not evolving at the same speed I am. And it sucks,
Yeah.
but they'll get there
That's
too.
life too. That's kind
That's
of
their
like we're
path.
they're on
Yeah,
their path, their journey, and we're on ours. And well, and
exactly. And
I
when
like that. Because I often still think like or I'll catch myself thinking, and I love that you said like like the what it's not wasted time, because like I feel I sometimes think back to like those times when I hike like during I guess my quote unquote I was gonna keep referring to my fall because like now that's I like that phrasing of it, but like it thinking like damn like what why was I doing like I was wasting time. That's what it I sometimes catch myself thinking that
Mhm.
like what was I doing? Why was I sitting there just not bettering myself, not even working on it? Like just what like that was why I was just sitting around wasting my own time. And like I could have been here sooner if I wasn't wasting so much time. But like
But maybe
but
there was something else that needed to happen at that time that maybe you just needed to rest. Maybe you just
yeah.
needed to move away from certain people that just weren't energetically like good energy. Like, there's always I went through this huge trauma and I kept thinking to myself, why did it have to be that way? Why couldn't I just why couldn't I just have the why couldn't it just be easy for me for once? Like, why did it have to be so tragic? Why did it have to be so hard? Why did it have to be so painful? Why did it have to be that way?
Hmm.
But right after I went through that experience, a month later, I met the person that I'm with now. And we've been together ever since. And I
Love it.
was at that point in my life where I was like, I was 33 years old. I was like, oh, I'm not going to meet the one. Like, I might, but like, I can't say that it'll be in time
Not
for
hold
me
my breath.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, women have kind of like a timeline if they want to have kids. And
Yeah.
I thought, I'm like, I'm 33. I still have not met the one. I'm really depressed and angry now. Now I'm partying even more than I was because now I'm even more mad at what's going on.
Ugh.
And I just thought, there's no way that I'm going to meet the one, move in together, have children, get married, all before 40 years old. I mean, it's just not like, 7 years. That's a lot of stuff to try to,
That's a lot
you
of
know,
stuff.
maybe happen like this. And I hadn't
But
even met anyone who was close to the one at that point. But it all fell together so fast. We met, we were inseparable, we moved in together. Fast forward, it's now in August. Well, in May, it'll be 2 years since we met.
oh,
August, it'll be 2 years since we officially started dating.
I love that.
And he
Turns
wants
out a
to get
lot can
married
happen.
and
Turns
yeah,
out a
do
lot
all
can
the
happen very
things.
quick. I'm so
Yes,
happy for
yes. And
you.
thank you. And
You're
like,
welcome.
but when I think about like why did I have to go through that experience, I realized that if I had never gone through that experience, I would have never been in Vermont during that time frame. I would have never
Uh-huh.
been having my best friend trying to force me onto a dating app. I would have never
Wow.
been like playing around on Instagram liking photos and just happened to like this photo with him in it. Like all of these weird synchronicities happened that pushed me towards him. And if I hadn't gone through that big trauma, I probably would still be sitting in New York and have no idea he exists. And
Wow.
like, so when you think of things in that way, like it's all a balance. Life is a balance. Like you can't have good without bad. You can't have bad without
Hmm.
good. Like, and you don't want to add to the bad. Like,
No,
don't get me
surely not.
wrong. Like
No.
if your life is really good, you don't want to do bad things to try to balance it. Like, yeah,
No.
like,
No. 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 Don't get it wrong. Don't get it
yeah,
twisted, divas.
yeah.
No.
Bad things are always going to happen, but you really want to try to balance that out with some good energy. And like, and what I mean by that is like, don't always be like so positive that like people feel like you're unapproachable because they're like, I can't have a real conversation with her. She's just always like, life is good, and it makes me uncomfortable. You don't want to be
Yeah.
that person either. You don't want to live in extremes. You want to be somewhere in the middle. And
Everything has
when
nuance.
mhm, mhm. And when you figure out that balance, and when you think of life as a balance and think of things as a balance, you really start to see it. And you're like,
Mm.
this is so cool. Like, I totally get why this is happening right now because it's a balance.
Figuring it out.
It's crazy. Yeah. Whew.
Wow. So I like and so I mean, did so was yin yoga kind of like did you then discover I mean not discover like so were you being trained in yin yoga while you were getting your yoga training? I mean, it seems like were you already aware of it or no?
So, I had actually never done yin or heard of yin before my yoga teacher training, which is wild because I did my yoga teacher training. I started it when I was 29 and it finished right after I turned 30. And I'm 35 now, turning 36 in like a little less than 2 months now.
Oh, we
And yay. So, but my mom had introduced me to yoga and meditation from birth.
Oh,
This
wow.
woman, yes, she is a real life hippie, but also
I
like a
love it.
supermodel at the same time. Like she's the perfect mix of both. Like
Slay.
super sweet, super kind, but she's a Sagittarian, so if you piss her off, like watch out. Like she and this woman is drop dead gorgeous, like 5'8", like slim, like never worked out a day in her life. Crazy. But her life, looking at her, you would think, oh, this woman has the perfect life. And
She's
you'd
got
have
it
no
all.
idea what she's gone through. I mean, her life has been one upsetting trauma after the other.
Mm.
And when she was, I mean, I could go real deep into her life and it would be crazy, but just to keep it short, like when she
Sure.
was 16, her mom passed away.
Mm.
And she spent her whole life looking for answers because she just could not understand why this happened. Why did this happen to me? I'm 16. Like, I need my mom, you know?
Yeah.
And
Arguably
at
now
that
more than
time,
ever at
yeah,
16. Like,
exactly. And as a female, too, like, so I just can't
mm.
even comprehend. And so she was looking for answers. And in, the late 70s, they played yoga on TV. Apparently, there was some TV, like PBS or something. They were playing like some yoga
Oh,
channel or some yoga class
just
or something. So that's how she got into yoga.
love
And
that.
then from there, she started reading about Hinduism, Buddhism, Catholicism, like just went hard reading about all
She
sorts of different
just
religions, all sorts of different like pathways and spirituality, and just deep dived right into it. And she just got
wow.
embraced in that community and just casually grew in it. Like
Wow.
doing a yoga class with her is hilarious. She's the worst, but she she is the best Reiki master I've ever come across. Like she's just so calm and gentle and her energy is so healing. And I used to laugh when she would like place her hands over me and be like, like, like just feel the energy. And I'd be like, Mom, stop, get away from me with your Reiki. Like you're so weird.
What? Now
But
what
like,
exactly is Reiki? What is that?
so Reiki is just using like energy to heal or to like assist people. It's basically just like using energy and kind of like manipulating it, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and so I would have to say Reiki is not something that I'm super well versed in. It's kind of my mom thing, but I would bet money that in like 5 years I'm probably Reiki certified. Um,
Ooh,
but Reiki
you
is
heard it
like
here first.
Reiki is like how could I describe it? Like energetic healing.
Okay.
So Reiki masters and Reiki practitioners are usually people who are trained in how to use energy to help people heal or to feel better or to I don't really like using the word healing because healing is like oh my gosh, I just posted this on Threads. Healing is a lifelong journey. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it's just like another way, another therapy, I guess you could say, but a therapy
It's
using energy.
another tool in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And actually that's
Okay.
like with like yin yoga and balance and things like that. Um Basically I didn't know what it was, even though I had been raised in this yogi, meditative, spiritual, hippie household. I had no clue. And I did my yoga teacher training. Wild. Like it was just I actually was trained in vinyasa, which is like that flow class, but
Uh-huh.
there were portions that were dedicated to other things. So there was a portion where we learned about meditation. There was a portion where we learned about restorative yoga. There was a portion where we learned about Katona yoga, which is like so crazy. I got to try that again, but it's like using like I don't know, like I just remember the teacher being on like those foldable metal chairs, those old school folding metal
Yes.
chairs. She was like
Okay, yes.
bent over that, like her back arched on it, and she was
Oh,
somehow balancing on there. And I was like, I'm scared,
ah,
but also I really want to try it. And like
yeah,
lots of
that sounds
ropes.
challenging.
It's like very bondagey.
Ooh,
It kind of gives like a
props.
bandagey vibe.
Okay.
But there's all different kinds of yoga. And so when we did our yin section, I remember the teacher like, oh, I think my AirPod just
Oh
died.
no.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I remember the teacher prefacing it by saying like this is going to be a really intense experience for a lot of you, and you're either going to be super into yin or you're going to hate it. And so immediately, like the Gemini part of me was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!" Like I don't know what drama we're about to get into, but I'm here for it.
Polarizing? I'm
Like,
in. I'm here.
yeah, I am in. Oh, I see. Echo cancellation. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, like I was all for it. And then the at the time, my mom had gotten sick maybe like 6 months earlier, and my best friend had died. Like literally one after the other. My mom got sick and almost died. Then my best friend passed away. And I was like, what is going on? Like I was not okay. And I
Wow.
remember I went to go see my mom for dinner for her birthday, and as we were walking down her driveway, I slipped and fell on the snow and landed like right on my
Mm.
left shoulder, trying to like save my laptop. But
Oh,
for
of
6 months
course, yeah.
after, I was still feeling pain in my shoulder. Still feeling pain.
Mm.
And I went to the doctor twice, and both times he was like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You should not be feeling any pain. I
Huh.
honestly think you're just babying it too much, and there's nothing wrong here. And I was like, the fuck? Like, this guy's an
It
asshole.
hurts.
Like,
Yeah.
what? And I just I couldn't understand. And then I did this yin training, and we did this whole thing where we were like writing down ailments and issues we were having, et cetera, et cetera. And I told her about the left arm thing. And she was like, this is going to be a kind of a personal question. And if you don't feel like answering it, that's, totally fine, totally up to you. But have has anything gone on with your mom recently? And I was like,
Huh.
what? And she's like, has anything happened to your mom? And I was like, yeah, she almost died. Like, what do you mean? And that's when she went into like how yin works. And basically, a lot of times we will have traumas that happen in our lives, and maybe we know their trauma, maybe we don't know their trauma, but depending on how we work through it and if we work through it,
it'll stay stuck in our body. And maybe our brains are like, oh no, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm all right. But our body doesn't forget. So if we did not process that trauma, if we did not deal with it properly, it's going to stay stuck. And what's going to happen when it stays stuck is going to start manifesting in other ways. And so for me,
Mm.
I know I told you this, but in traditional Chinese medicine, which is where all these elements come from and how it's tied into yin yoga, is we we have two sides of our body. We have the yin side and the yang side. And the yang side is
Mhm.
connected to the sun, it's connected to masculinity, it's connected to the male dynamics that we have in our life and relationships. And then on the opposite side, we have the yin side, which is our left side, which is connected to the moon and connected to our femininity, but it's also connected to our relationships with the women in our life and ourself, the relationship with yourself. And yeah, it was the left shoulder, the yin
Boom.
side, the relationship with my mom that was hurting for no reason. And she told me, she was like, try to do some yin poses just on the left side and see what happens. She's like, try to meditate on, that experience that happened with your mom and see what happens. Maybe try to connect with your mom more about that experience. Maybe you guys can talk through it more and see what happens. I'm not even kidding. I took her advice and within a week, the pain was gone.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It
That's
was
incredible.
crazy. Like one of the craziest things I've ever experienced in my life. And I knew in that moment, I was like, oh, this is your life purpose. Like, this is why this was the teacher training you had to do. This was why this was the teacher you had to have. This is why, like, yin was the last of the portions that we were learning. Like, it just all made sense. And I started this training like right after my mom got sick and my friend passed away, because both of them for years had been like, you need to be a yoga teacher. And it took hitting rock bottom where I thought I'm going to lose the two people that mean the most to me for me to be like, oh, I should do this now. I should become a yoga teacher. And so, like, let me just make sure I didn't mess up the headphones now.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Did I mess them up? Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, good.
But yeah, like sometimes it just takes like that, somebody just kind of putting all the pieces together for you to realize like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be.
It's like
And
your epiphany moment, your light bulb moment. That's awesome.
yeah, it's so crazy. It's so crazy how it all plays out. But I definitely knew. I was like, okay, this is it. This is what you're meant to be doing.
Oh, you muted yourself. Oh
I'm the
no.
worst. I'm the worst.
We're having
I'm like
fun.
trying to figure out like, how do I change the sound? How do I do this? What am I doing?
We're working through it in real time, dude. It's all fun. We're vibing.
If you're curious what the tech side of a yoga class with me looks like, this is it.
I love it.
But yeah, so it's all crazy and everything happens for a reason, and I strongly believe that. And I think that I was always looking for an answer, like, why didn't my mom get sick? Why did Erin die?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think that happened so that I would become a yoga teacher. Like, that's like really weird.
No, of course not.
But when I look back on like, oh, why did I not become a yoga teacher in 2006 when my mom first asked? And it's like, because I needed to go through what I needed to go through. I needed to almost lose them to be able to value my life and my body, and to finally like make the step to take care of myself. And becoming a yoga teacher was the first step I took to actually start taking care of me. And it took a long time. I was like 29 years old. But
Yeah, but I mean, and that the theme of balance that we've been that's kind of like carried its way through. It's almost like, I mean, something so like horrible happened in your life, and then something so beautiful came from it,
mhm. Mhm.
like that. Wow.
It's
I
crazy.
mean,
And then even like earlier when you were touching on the pandemic, like my yoga career blew up in 2020. So I know a lot of people had like really hard experiences during that time. And I almost feel bad saying that like it was the opposite for me
yeah.
because I had the tools and I was ready for something like that. I was like, well, not really, like who's ready for something like that?
I
But
mean, who? No, no one's ready. But I
yeah,
mean, more so, I guess, ready to cope with the
ready to
feelings that
cope.
come with it. Perhaps. Yeah.
Exactly. And also ready to take the knowledge that I had been gaining for years and put it to use and actually really help people because people were suffering
Yeah.
and people didn't want to go to a high intensity yoga class. They wanted to feel their feelings, they wanted to connect with others. They wanted to get down and dirty with their emotions and like really figure out what was going on because we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if we were going to still be here. So,
Tomorrow
it's all
truly was
weird.
not like promised during that time.
Yeah.
I mean, it never is, but like we were really feeling it then.
Yeah. And
Like,
I think back to that time and like I almost kind of long for it because I miss that vulnerability that we all had
mhm.
where we were all kind of on an even playing field for once.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
everybody like what did you have? You had yourself and you had your, feelings and emotions and that wanting to connect with another human. And so, yeah, it's like it's weird how things play out in that way.
it really is. But I mean, everything really does seem to happen for a reason.
Mhm. Mhm. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, I feel like I had a question, but it lost me because I'm just like, ah, wow.
Oh my gosh, no, it's okay. I can keep going.
Oh,
Um,
I mean, if
but
you could just keep going.
yeah, so let me talk a little more about yin because I feel like all these other things I could talk to you all day, but
Oh yeah, I've
yin.
already decided that this particular episode's not going to have a solo portion from me. Like I this is just going to be, yeah. I this is too wonderful for that.
Too
So
juicy.
this will be a little special edition one to wrap up the first
Yay.
month. Like, but anyway, I'm sorry. Continue. I
No,
love
no,
it.
no. So I know, like I mentioned this earlier, but yin yoga stems from traditional Chinese medicine. And so, in traditional Chinese medicine, which if you've ever done acupuncture or acupressure, you might have some familiarity with this. People who are listening who have done those types of things or studied those fields, they definitely know what I'm talking about. But in traditional Chinese medicine, there are 5 elements, and these elements are all connected to a season. So there's the wood element, which is connected to the spring, which is what we're in now. There's the fire element, which is connected to the summer. There's the earth element, which I believe is also connected to the summer. I have to check in with that. But then there's the water element, which is connected to the winter. And then there's the metal element, which is connected to the fall. So we have these different elements that are connected to different seasons. But not only are they connected to different seasons, they're connected to different emotions and they're connected to different symptoms. So, physical symptoms that could appear in our life. And these elements are working with something called meridian lines, which are in our body. And they're these energetic lines, which they call chi, QI, which now that I've told you about this, you'll definitely see it. Like if you go to
Okay.
get like a massage or something, you might
I need to.
see like a picture of a body, and you might see the word chi and like energetic lines, and you'll be like, wait, I know what this is.
I'm gonna
Um,
be looking out for it next time. Next time I go in.
yeah, yeah. Uh, and so these energetic lines, they run through our body, and each one is connected to one of these elements connected to different parts of our body. And when you work with this chi and these meridian lines, these energetic lines, you can actually start to heal yourself from the inside out. So you can
Hmm.
take specific poses or specific things like being outside, or reading. And if it's connected to a certain element, it will help you balance yourself more. And so the
Hmm.
idea here is that you want all five elements to be balanced, which is like, you know, that that's
That's a lot to balance.
yeah, that's probably a lifelong journey in itself. Um, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. And as I was saying earlier, your body will give you cues. It'll let you know something's going on.
Just gotta
And
listen.
yeah, and if you listen to it and you have the knowledge, you can take these things out of your toolbox and you can work with that energy instead of against it. And you can actually fix yourself. Which is like, isn't that what we
Wow.
want to do?
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
yeah, I know I do.
yeah.
Or
I know, me too.
work on it.
I'm
Wanna
like,
work at least work on it.
yeah, like I mean, the Virgo moon in me wants to be perfect, but I know that's not possible. And everything, our whole lives is just trying to make ourselves feel better. And if you had those tools to make yourself feel better, wouldn't you want to use them?
Yeah.
So I think that it's like a really cool way to, for free, help yourself. You don't have to pay me like $1,000 to have private lessons to like do yin yoga. You could literally just look it up on Google. Like we have it right here at our fingertips.
Yeah.
Um, and like, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Or you could join one of your donation-based yin yoga classes like I have
Yes,
and
yeah.
get a
Or
taste of it
you can
yourself.
literally just ask me. Like I
Yeah,
love
that too.
talking about this stuff, so I'll tell you everything you want to know. Like I don't gatekeep
Uh, I love
amateurs.
it. Get 'em.
But yeah, here I'll tell you a little bit about each element because I
Okay.
know I'm not sure how long these go, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are we running out of time? Did I talk for too long?
I mean, it's good that we're running like, we'll see. I mean, I'm looking at it, we're at, like, 52 minutes now, and that's, like, it's around where, like, we cap things off, but I know there was also, like, that chunk of time where, like, was dead air, and, like, there was some stuff that's gonna cut out. So I think if we could kinda start wrapping it up, but so, like, we just I need to try to stop getting on tangents, but
Me too. That's the
but we
story
could
of my
start
life.
the wrap up. I don't mind if it's, like, a little bit longer than
Yeah,
normal, and
I'll do like
we
a,
can
a
just kinda
little brief overview of each element. So,
sure.
the wood element, like I mentioned, is connected to the spring. And somebody who might have an imbalanced wood, they might feel a lot of anger. So, when you think of anger, that's the element I want you to think of: wood and
Okay.
spring. Um, And so, a big thing with the wood element, and I love to point this one out because a lot of people who have wood imbalances are actually the nicest people I've ever met,
Interesting.
even though it's connected with anger. And the
Hmm.
reason why is because these people tend to keep it all in. Like they want to say they're angry, but they're too afraid to hurt everyone's feelings. So they just stuff it in,
Hmm.
which is so sad.
Yeah.
And when you hold on to that anger, it destroys you. It
I
it
feel like
literally
I've been there
destroys you.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And these it's like a very rigid way to be. So like with the wood element, you kind of want to think like they're so rigid that they don't bend. They just snap. And then
Oof.
they snap and you're like, whoa, that person is so nice. And now they're really mad. And now I'm scared. Like, if you know anyone like that, they probably have a wood imbalance. And
Huh.
like physically, they might have jaundice. Like, you might have issues with your eyes. You might have issues with your liver. You might have migraines. You might have weak nails. And this is because in those meridian lines, wood is connected to your liver. It's on your liver and gallbladder line, which starts
Okay.
in your toes and ends in your eyes. So it makes a
Fascinating.
lot of sense why you might have jaundice,
Huh.
why you might have trouble clearing toxins. And then there's all sorts of yoga poses you could do for this. You could do butterfly pose, you could thread the needle, you could do cow pose, you could do yogi squat, dragonfly, happy baby, supine twist. These are all working with those lines. Hold it for 3 to 10 minutes. You're good.
Love it. That's all it takes. 3 to 10 minutes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. Just
it's that it doesn't sound like a lot, but I know it probably feels. I mean, it feels like a lot. Some
oh
of those
yeah, and
poses feel like a long time.
and I'm pretty easy on you guys in the donation based classes, but because you have to build up to it, really. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not going to put somebody in a 10-minute child's pose. And it sounds amazing. I'm like, oh, I could definitely sit in child's pose for 10 minutes. But the thing is with yin yoga is that you sit in these poses for 3 to 10 minutes. And as you're sitting in them, your body starts to go into fight or flight. Just, not all the time. Sometimes you're just chilling because you're balanced in that element. So you feel good and you're fine. But if you're not balanced in that element, you're going to go into fight or flight and you're going to want to get out of it. And like my teacher said, if you want to get out of it, you should probably stay in it. Like, it's probably where the work needs to happen. And so it's really cool because your body is literally telling you, I do not like this because it's making me feel something that I don't want to feel. And I stuffed it down. And I told you I didn't want to feel this. And you're like, I don't care. You're coming out
We
today.
gotta.
We're
We
not
gotta.
holding
We
on
gotta
to
deal
this
with it.
anymore. Yeah, we're not holding
Yeah.
on to this anger because it's giving me migraines. And I don't want migraines anymore.
I'm ready to stop being angry.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then,
uh,
like with fire, for example, fire summer, fire types, when they're in balance, they're like the life of the party. Like that person who's like
oh.
the life of the party, that person is probably more, because each element you'll resonate with a certain one a little bit more than the others.
Okay.
And like fire types are like the life of the party, but when they're imbalanced, they are really struggling. They feel really lonely. Maybe they're like socially or sexually like overactive. So
Mm.
they like need to be out all the time. They're sleeping with like everybody they come across. And it's out of normal for them. It's out of character for them. This isn't like who they are because
Okay.
like I had a great time when I was younger. But
Yes,
like
diva.
it wasn't out of nowhere, when the behavior is kind of out of nowhere, that's when it's triggering like, oh, okay, something's up here. But like
Hmm. An imbalance is
fire,
occurring.
yeah, fire types, like emotionally, they might talk too much. So like I can usually tell when my fire's out of balance because I'm oversharing and I don't like it. Like I'm
Mm.
telling too much, I'm talking too much, I'm talking over people, and I'm like, oh shit. I need to do some self-love here.
Oh.
I need to love myself a little more because my fire element is out of whack. Like physical symptoms with your fire element are like heart stuff,
Mm.
blood pressure problems, anemia, being really thirsty, poor circulation. And then like poses for that would be like dragonfly, heart openers, sphinx pose. But then you get into earth, and earth is like balanced earths. Earths are those people who are really grounded. Like, you ever meet somebody and you're like, wow, you're just like so like grounded.
So down to
Those,
earth.
yeah, those are earth people. But like earth people, kind of think of them as like your cancers. Like Cancer, uh the sign, the astrological
Mm-hmm.
sign Cancer, they're very nurturing. They're very like family. That's the earth type. When an earth is balanced, you're really nurturing, you're really nourishing your body, nourishing others. Like family and relationships are really important to you. When it's imbalanced, you're not taking care of yourself. Like you have like a sense of emptiness, like you're trying to fill a void.
Mm.
And usually you'll fill that void with something: shopping, work, other people, maybe alcohol or drugs. Like you're trying to fill a void. So maybe if you're feeling really anxious, really clingy, like really possessive in your relationship, if your eating patterns are kind of messed up, like you're overeating, you're undereating,
Mm.
these could all be earth imbalances. And like the poses for those are butterfly pose, frog pose. Um, Another fun thing with yin is that, or, with these elements is that it doesn't actually have to be yoga poses that can help you heal them. Like
Oh.
with earth, for example, just laying on your stomach.
Huh.
Just lay on your stomach.
And
If
the
you,
healing
if
can
you're
begin.
yeah, you could sleep on your stomach and that would help you balance your earth element. It's
That's
crazy. Like so
so
weird.
fascinating to me.
Right? It's so crazy.
Wow.
And then we get into water. And water people who are balanced are like people who really trust in the flow of life, is how you can think of it. So they really like they get it. They're like, okay, everything's good. Everything that's supposed to happen is going to happen. I'm just going to let it happen. Let it play out. Like those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
people are really in tune with their water element. Um, but if it's really imbalanced, like you might notice that they're like really reactive, or they're really full of fear, stress, and anxiety. Like fear is like the big one if you think of
Mm.
water. And water is in the winter too. So, which is kind of
Hmm.
cool because when you think of water, like you wouldn't really think of winter, but
Right.
snow is
Yeah.
water.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And like some like emotional symptoms of that is like fear, like I said, panic attacks,
Mm.
phobias, issues with your kidney, like not being able to stay warm. Um
Hmm.
Again with that like yellowness, not of your eyes, but just like of your skin, craving salty food,
Huh.
like not
Well, all
liking
right.
the cold weather. Yeah, it's like it's really random, but
Yeah, it
they're
is.
not really random. Like, and then some of those poses are like caterpillar, sphinx, seal, bridge, or supported seal. I mean, supported bridge, those all help. And then the final element, and this one is one that always tugs on my heartstrings
Mm.
because this element is always the one that really, like, you'll notice in yin yoga, if you practice it or if you go to a class, there will be times when you're in a certain pose and you just can't help it and you are just sobbing. I mean, you're
Mm.
just crying. It's just all coming out. And you're like, "What? What is happening?"
Oh.
And the element that gets me in tears every single time is the metal element. Um,
Really?
and this one is the one that's connected to the fall. And if you had to put like for water, it's fear, right? Uh for earth, it's anxiety, or like not blah, 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 blah. For water, it's fear. For earth, it's nurturing. For fire, it's like joy. Like if you're trying to think of like words to kind of connect with them. For wood, it would be anger.
Mm-hmm.
For metal, it's grief.
Mm.
And I think that grief is one of those things where when you think of it, you think of someone passing away.
Yeah. It's kind of like
But
where the knee jerk, but you can grieve for so many different things.
exactly. And like we were talking about earlier, and that's why I waited to do metal till the end. But you can also be grieving like your sense of self,
Yeah.
grieving an old life. And I think that when you don't know that, you don't really know that it's grief that you're feeling. But like the metal element is connected to the fall. It's also connected to grief. And if you know anything about chakras, grief is held in your throat.
Mm.
So when you're really feeling grief, when it's really like bubbling up in you, you're probably going to feel it in your throat. And so people who have like an imbalanced metal, they have a hard time letting go. They have a hard time forgiving themselves. They have a hard time letting go of the past. They kind of have a hard time being grateful for what they have right now. Like they're kind of living in the past, in the future, past in the future. Like they can't really stay in the present. And like emotional symptoms is like hopelessness, being pessimistic, holding on to grief for a long time, isolating, maybe kind of distancing themselves from people, not able to let go, hoarding is a
Mm.
big one because people who hoard, like we love to like crack jokes and be mean to them and stuff like that. But I actually know two people who are very close to me who dealt with hoarding,
Mm.
and it's so much more than just not wanting to get rid of stuff. Like it's a
Oh, sure.
real, yeah, it's a
Because
real
you ask
like
yourself why a couple times, like
mhm.
why are like did you get to the you start getting to the root of it? Like
Yeah, yeah. And then physical
there's nuance to
symptoms,
everything.
there is, and everything is connected to something. It doesn't
Mm.
just happen for no reason.
Yeah.
And with metal, some of these like physical symptoms is so a big one is because it's connected to your lungs. And I know like for each of these I couldn't really go into super in depth, but like it's a good little intro.
Oh
But
yeah.
metal's connected to your lungs, and so it's on the same meridian lines that are working with your lung energy. So somebody who has a metal imbalance, they might have asthma.
Mm.
I have asthma, and it's from childhood. And I always think to myself, I went because I had a big trauma when I was 7 years old, and it involved my mom. And
Mm.
I just can't help but wonder, like, I wonder if that's why the asthma kind of manifested itself. Like, I wonder if this is one of those things where, like, it didn't have to be.
Mm.
Because now, as a grown adult, it doesn't bother me at all. After
Huh.
I've done all the healing and the journey and everything, it's kind of like dissipated. But so something to think about. But like if you're having any issues with your lungs, that could be a metal, um, you know, trigger that maybe something's going on there. And then two really weird ones with metal is slumped shoulders. So like if you're like sitting like this, could
Huh.
be a sign that your metal's out of balance. And also sighing. Like people who
Really?
just like are like like all the time could be a metal
Wow.
imbalance.
Huh.
Could be dealing with grief. Yeah.
Huh. Huh.
So weird. And then like
That
three
is
yoga
weird.
poses that you could do for that is like a supine twist, cow pose with cactus arms. So cactus arms is when you're like bent at the elbows and
Okay.
your arms are facing up. So instead of like that T, you do like a cactus arm, or like a supported bridge. But like, yeah, like there's all and you know, like as we go through life, like some of these emotions, some of these feelings, they might be more prevalent, right? So like when you're in the winter season, duh, anger is
Yeah.
going to come up. I mean,
Sure.
that's the element. Like, so if you have been dealing with your anger, might not phase you as much. But if you haven't, probably going to come up
It's
pretty
gonna come out.
intensely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's pretty crazy.
It's all so like I'm trying to like I'm processing it. Like it's it's a
I know I
lot.
just
It's
dropped so much info on you. I'm like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, you poor thing. Because I always
No.
give it to you in like little bits and pieces in the yoga classes.
Yeah.
Um, but never all at once like that. But now that you see them all together, you can see how they kind of like play off each other.
Yes.
It's pretty
It's
cool.
just incredible. I keep saying it, it's all incredibly fascinating. Like that's like it's just wow, very. I'm excited to continue to like go to work with. I mean, you specifically, but also just in general, like with this yin yoga practice because I've been very much enjoying myself with it, and
Yeah, I
like
love
it.
that.
I mean,
I
I've been
have a
feeling better, like in general, like with doing it. So
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy. You know, honestly, some of the happiest moments in my life were where I was doing yin yoga every single day. And like, yeah, I would take days off here and there and stuff like that, but when I made it like a consistent part of my practice, it changes so much. And every time I catch myself in like a bad place like mentally, I'm like, you could really use some yin yoga right now. And I'll turn on, because I'm a yoga teacher, so I'm not like turning on my own yoga classes when I'm
right,
practicing yoga. I'm not like, oh, let me
right.
put on It's Me Janet yoga. This is so great. Like I don't want to hear myself talk or watch myself on camera. So I have like teachers, the teacher who trained me in yin, and I'll go and watch her classes. She literally has not updated her like recorded classes in 7 years.
Mm,
So I literally am watching the same class over and over again, but every time it's different. And the healing feels different and the process feels different. And, I think it's just yin is just one of those things, just like meditation, where if you don't have it in your toolbox yet, you should put it in there.
mm.
Even if it's just like you learn one pose for each element and you just learn like, okay, this one is related to anger, this one's related to fear, this one's related to grief. If you just remember that and one pose, it changes so much. It's so small, but it
Wow,
changes so much.
that yeah. Everybody try yin yoga. Come on, divas. Join us even. 'Cause I
Yeah,
like it. That's thank you so much because I think
you're
that's a
so
nice like
welcome.
that's a nice little segue. Like we can tie. That's a nice little way. Like you've tied it all up with a little bow. That
Yay!
thank you so much, Janet, for joining me. I'm
Thank
so
you.
honored to have you here, and I
I'm
just
so
adore the hell out
happy.
of you.
I know, same. The feeling's mutual. I remember when we first connected and I was like, oh my gosh, our screen names, I'm so old.
Yes,
Our screen names are so
not our
similar.
screen
Like
names.
we're meant to meet. And then
Yeah.
now fast forward to how many months later
God,
and we
we're
get to connect in like such a cool way. And I
oh,
love it. I feel so honored. Thank you so much.
thank you. Okay, well, I mean, well, to really wrap it up, I mean, plug yourself. I mean, we kind of said like where could the divas find you?
Oh
Where
yeah, so
yeah.
I'm kind of everywhere now because I'm just like expanding myself and I'm realizing that like different channels bring in different things. But I mean, I guess the main place to find me is the most simple. You can find me at It's Me Janet. So I have my Instagram account, which is It's Me Janet. And if you really want to talk to me, go over to Threads because I don't talk at Instagram. So if you actually want to chat, come over to Threads. Same handle. And then if you're interested in yoga, it's actually itsmejanet.com. So super
Easy peasy.
easy. Like, and on each of those, on my Instagram and on my Threads, I link my link tree and they go off into all these other places. My podcast does have guided meditations now. I kind of changed it up. It used to be conversational, but I was always talking to myself.
Mm.
So I deleted all old episodes and just have been focusing on meditation. And same name, It's Me Janet Podcast. So
That's on
really
branding.
easy to find me. Really easy.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again. And
Thank you. I love
I
you so
I
much.
love
I'm so
you.
happy.
I can't wait for this
So
to come
happy.
out.
Oh,
Okay,
me
well, you know
too.
what? Well, we're just gonna keep on gabbing, but bye, divas. I'll see you next week.